Thanks for being here again, Michael. Welcome back to the Heart and Soul Conversations. Today, we're having a topic that I'm really excited about, the two main needs of the feminine. We've already talked another day about the two main needs of the masculine. Now it's the feminine's turn. Let us know. You're the expert.
Well, again, thank you very much, Henrika, for allowing me to be here and allowing us to dive into discussions of the masculine and feminine science. I think it's really important, really pertinent, something that's on a lot of people's minds as well. What does it mean? How does it apply to a person's life? We find that each need that a person has in relationships are very universal. Love is very universal. However, it's expressed in different ways according to the masculine and feminine natures. And the differences in expression is beautiful because it allows us to connect. It allows the dance to happen. It allows us to discover a new way of, or novel ways of being able to love and appreciate each other. Differences are to be celebrated, not to be prejudiced or stereotyped. So it's important that we respect, and not just respect, just have fun in the differences, have fun in the slightly different ways and perspectives and thought patterns and of seeing things as well. It's the way that relationships work, and it creates that mystery and that excitement as well. Yeah. So for the feminine, what they require from the masculine nature are two: sense control and sensitivity or consideration. So we'll start with consideration first. It's a very, very interesting subject or topic. So let's go with consideration or sensitivity. So sensitivity or consideration means that the masculine nature is demonstrating that she's number one priority.
Very important.
In other words, one of the important aspects of the feminine nature is that she appreciates or wishes to feel number one priority in somebody else's life.
Yeah.
Now, is a whole discussion in terms of feeling number one with parents. And we'll find that the need to feel like number one in someone else's life is to the extent that they felt number one with their parents. So in an upbringing, if they felt very cherished and number one within that family dynamic, they won't feel like they need that so much in a relationship. And if it was missing or absent as their friend, then it may be more. But the key thing is having that priority. So sensitivity means that you could have chosen to work on a project. You could have chosen to spend time on your phone. You could have chosen to rest, but you chose to engage and interact with me. In other words, the feminine nature appreciates the option of having interaction and exchange. She doesn't have to take it. There's a difference. The option to take it, but not necessarily taking it, right? Does that make sense? So that we have an option is just like having a whole banquet. We have an option of different foods. You're not going to have every single thing. You may not have anything, but just having the option.
Yeah, and it always relates back to, does he care about me? Does he love me? Does he care enough to make the effort? Whether or not that's unnecessary, different story. But I need to see, in order to feel loved, that he wants to. That's all that really matters.
Yes, it's really subtle. It's subtle, and as we're saying before, these are many unspoken principles, unspoken laws, unspoken dynamics that are happening every single day in every single country. Henrika, I've been to India, Ghana, Nigeria, Iceland. I've spoken to people in America, New Zealand, Australia, Belgium, Croatia, Slovenia. Every single country has the exact same relationship obstacles and the exact same relationship needs and wants and expectations. So it's across the board. The feminine nature loves that experience that, hey, I'm number one priority in this person's life. Now, being number one priority obviously is important, but who she chooses to connect with, her identity becomes very intimately linked with that masculine nature, that masculine person who's there with her while she's happy, he's there. She's upset, he's there. She's jubilant, he's there. She's celebratory, he's there. She's going through a grieving, he's there. She feels guilty, he's there. She feels ecstatic, he's there. What does it communicate? It means that regardless of how I'm feeling or my mental disposition, I'm still valued. Yeah. I'm still worthy, and I don't have to be happy and bright and at my best and feeling my best and looking my best and smelling my best and just to for your love. My existence is something that you cherish and respect, and that's what creates security. So sensitivity is what creates security, and every feminine nature is always going to analyze, am I safe? I remember hearing from one of my senior mentor women, and she mentioned a point that women will generally walk into an environment or meet a new person, and there's a radar that is constantly saying, am I safe? Am I safe? Am I safe? And once they're satisfied, yeah, I'm safe. Okay, now what's there to experience? What's there to gain? How can we interact? But if she doesn't feel safe or secure, the natural feminine blossom doesn't happen, because she's always thinking about how to get safe.
That's right. And it's subtle. It's not even just a one-off. You establish yourself and a safe, and then from then onward, you're fine. Especially in the earlier stages of relationship, certain behaviors, certain ways of, for example, somebody getting angry at me and not having their anger under control, or somebody being selfish or whatever. It has so many different nuances for so many different women, but somebody showing up in a way that's not a strong, protective, masculine figure takes that safety away again. So it's not something you have as a male to establish once. It's something that you're feeding constantly, and through everything you do, and more so through the way you are, through the way you're showing up with me, you are affirming on a day-to-day basis, and you can kill that in an instant. And then it takes a lot to reestablish it, because once that trust is broken, it takes a lot for it to come back. Yeah,
definitely. And there's an interesting point you mentioned, so many interesting points you mentioned. Each line you mentioned can be a video in and of itself. But you said about once. The masculine nature works like that. It's linear. Here's A, here's B. Often in goal setting, it's about A to B. Here's where I am, here's where I want to be. What's the method to get to that specific goal? The feminine nature doesn't work like A to B. The feminine nature is like that. It works in cycles. In other words, for the masculine nature, it's once. For the feminine nature, it's eternal, which is why it's important that they have eternal, permanent, lasting, which is never ending, which means that it's important for the feminine nature to always never ending have establishments of safety, never ending affection, never ending attention, never ending relishment and respect. It can't be just something that happens once. So I'll just share the common feuds that can happen. That the masculine nature will go, let's say, feminine nature will go, do I look good in this? And the masculine nature has already said before, in the same, yeah, you look really great, I really like it. Now, he's thinking, I've already told you that you look good. Why do you need to hear it again?
Yeah, no, that's how it works.
Then you need to tell me again.
And if you don't, you probably didn't even mean it the last time.
You see? Because it's all linked.
Everything is linked, damn it.
She cooks a really nice meal. He goes, oh, that was really nice. She cooks another nice meal another time. Oh, that was really nice. But what she's actually looking for is a slight adjustment in the compliment, because she wants to see that there's a new or novel response and reciprocation to the new variety she provided in the cooking.
That's right. Like if you always send me flowers on a Thursday afternoon, maybe it's just in your calendar. You didn't actually remember and think of me. It's just an automated thing in your calendar.
Yeah, like that, exactly. So
Yeah.
It's a never-ending, constant, novel, new affection. That's how the feminine nature and the feminine cycles work. It's always new. No cycle's the same in length, in moods, in disposition, in energy, in interactions, in the people that you have around. So if her feminine body doesn't work in a way that is always constant, why would her needs for affection be the same? It's, you see the point? It's always
Absolutely.
creating a consistent variety.
Yeah,
And
even
so
just
that,
with our estrogen levels, with our testosterone levels within our own body, there's so like there are phases of the months where I have more masculine energy within myself, and phases when the testosterone level drops and the estrogen rises, where I'm much more in my feminine, much more receptive, also much more vulnerable. So yeah, absolutely.
yes, that's exactly it. So if we see that, hey, one of the things that the feminine nature is looking for is that sensitivity and consideration of her as a person, her mood,
Disposition.
her disposition, then here's the really interesting point, just for the advice for the males. If the essential principle is that for the feminine nature, there's always that need for what I like to call the AAP, constant affection, attention, and protection.
Mm.
Then it's important that the masculine chooses someone they feel is worthy of their support. You see the point? Is worthy of their attention, worthy of their love. Because that is a principle that's going to happen regardless. So rather than trying to fight the principle and go, wait, you're just needy, right? You hear that a lot.
Oh God, yeah.
Why is my partner just so needy?
Yeah.
No, it's that you've chosen someone who's not necessarily satisfied with what you can provide, not just physically, but emotionally, socially, mentally, intellectually, and spiritually. So that's the point, is that essential, one of the essential needs for the feminine nature is that she's always constantly looking that, is this person considering me? Now, I remember I was speaking to one friend about this. It's almost as if for the feminine nature, if you act in a selfish manner towards her, she just knows. It's like, boom.
Yes.
Like, what? It's like,
yes.
like, where did that come from? Like, and it might even just be a little blink. It might be it might be a small facial expression. You made a joke. You took a joke a little bit too far. You were joking, ha ha ha. You were joking, ha ha ha. You joking, and then you went a little bit to the offense, and then
Boom.
changed. It's like boom, straight away. As soon as she's not considered, boom. She knows it. She understands it. She feels it. How she expresses it, that is questionable sometimes.
That's a whole different story, but essentially it's that. Absolutely.
Yeah. So as soon as there's not that consideration, that not number one priority, she realizes, and there's no number two in the feminine nature. It's either number one or why are you treating me like this kind of thing. There's not a number two, number three. So if he chooses him over her, she experiences that. The masculine nature, when it's not in connection with the feminine nature, can choose himself.
I'm not sure I understand what you're trying to say here. Can you specify that? What do you mean when it is she chooses him over her? Do you mean she prioritizes his needs over her own?
No, maybe I got the pronouns wrong. Is that if the masculine nature chooses himself over her, that means she's second priority. So there's not a silver medal in the feminine nature.
And then it's not safe.
Then it's not safe because someone is taking priority over him, namely him. Yeah. So that means that at any moment, because if he takes priority over her, that means he doesn't need her. But she wants to feel like needed.
That's right.
Because if she doesn't feel needed or there's not that attachment, it's communicating that you don't have to treat me in a way that's considerate because you don't need me.
Yeah. And you know what makes it even worse? Like a lot of us women are not very good at asking for or expressing our needs. But what makes it really, really bad, and we're kind of expecting the other person to just guess, right? This is something we need to work on, that we're actually expressing what we need. But what really is hard is when we do express what we need and we actually specifically say, hey, in order for me to be happy, in order for me to feel loved, this is really important to me. And then that still doesn't happen and doesn't get considered. That's crushing.
It's really, really, really difficult because what you've done is you've finally summoned up the courage, the bravery, this thing that's been on your mind for a week. And you've finally summoned up the courage to express that him being in contact with this person is making you feel really sad or down or doubting your relationship, and you've put yourself out there and you're now vulnerable. You're at this point where you can be shamed for something that's important to you. That's the point. You can potentially be shamed. And so you're putting yourself out, you're putting a risk. You're risking being disrespected, which is an absolute #1 no-no for the feminine nature. And so when it doesn't get reciprocated, or at least respected, because it doesn't always, because for the woman, she doesn't always need to necessarily feel like he's able to fulfill absolutely everything of them.
Of course not. Yeah.
They will
But
acknowledge.
it needs to be heard and acknowledged, and then
exactly.
to the best of abilities be acted upon.
Yes.
What I don't want as a feminine is to then have a discussion about why my needs are just made up BS, or why my needs don't matter and how it's all just in my head.
Yeah, because what that does is the key essential thing that is important to note here is the masculine nature approaches the feminine nature to increase that sense of purpose, and the feminine nature approaches the masculine nature to increase that sense of security.
Security, I'm not so sure about. Love, for sure.
Love, security, safety. In other words, this point that you just made, which was, if I express or share my needs, if it's not heard.
Yeah, that's definitely security and safety gone.
Yeah. So that's what that's what is appreciated in that exchange. So if that's been made to feel like it doesn't exist, then she'll feel like a part of her doesn't exist, and it goes into that whole thing where if a part of you doesn't feel like it exists, then that's a fear, of course. So her emotions are very intimately connected with who she is as a person. They're very connected. There's nothing really disconnected from their feminine nature. So when she expresses that emotion and that request, it's all part of her identity, which is connected to what I cooked for you, which is connected with how I'm dressing, which is connected with the compliment you gave, which is connected with everything's all interconnected. So yeah, if that's not necessarily appreciated, not good. However, there's a little caveat I'd like to share. A confident woman is able to express a request without the expectation of it being fulfilled, and without feeling extensively negative if it cannot be fulfilled by the masculine. So it's crushing, but at the same time, a confident woman who expresses that specific need hasn't let it play on a man too much. Is just saying, hey, one of the things I appreciate is when I do, come back, that we do have 10 minutes of where we're just conscious together. Yeah, you've expressed that a few times. Now that still doesn't play out. A confident woman look at that and go, in that area, something that's important to me is not important to him, and so therefore, in that area, I need to analyze: is that something that can work for me or not? So a confident woman will take that, express a request without expectations of it being fulfilled, but analyze and see how's this person reciprocating with me, and take it as it is. She doesn't imagine things. She doesn't hope, and she doesn't just look at the potential. She takes things as they are. So if you're expressing a request and you see that, because if you express a request but you have a heavy expectation of it being fulfilled, what happens is the way you express the request, according to Sakavaha, who wrote a lot about nonviolent communication and empathic communication. Empathic communication was mentioned at a point that if you express a request without that confidence, what happens is it actually translates into a burdensome demand.
Yeah, and there is this quote, I think it's in Alison Armstrong's work: women demand too much and at the same time ask for too little. It's like the nature of demanding rather than asking for, rather than expressing, hey, this is something that would be wonderful, feeling entitled to be given. And just energetically, I know when I'm on the receiving end of somebody feeling entitled towards something, that's an immediate no. It's like I move into resistance immediately. Whereas if somebody comes with an open heart and just shares with me what's important to them, I have a desire to give, and that's probably the same with men, with us.
Yeah, I'll just try to think of an easy example. So the typical, what you mentioned is such a great point about the whole demanding thing. So the typical thing that will happen is it will be something like for the last few weeks, I've always taken the bin out. Is that something you can't do? Like, is there a problem with, is that something you can't do? Or can you just take the bins out, please? Like that. That's more of, I've got resentment building up, and maybe we should take the bin out, and he can see that, but he's not taking it action like that. So the confident request is, would you help me by taking the bins out, please? And wait. Don't say anything, and just wait for the response. And they go, no. Would you help by being able to take the bins out for me, please? Anyway, it's a simple request. It's not difficult. It doesn't, anyone can do it, kind of thing. But it's very confident.
As a woman,
yeah,
the desire is that we don't want to have to ask for it all the time.
Not, yeah, yes.
It's like at some point you're like, you are now in your 30s, in your 40s, in your 50s. If you want me to respect you as a competent man, can you please just do stuff that is obvious without me having to ask for it? Mind you, I've also learned over the years in myself, looking into masculine, feminine, into how our brains work, how we are wired, how we operate in the world, that males prioritize in a different way.
Yeah, they tend to, being the male, being the aspect of accomplishment, a direct request is actually more effective than assuming he should know what the obvious is, one, and also making an indirect request. You're right. It should get to a point where you're not asking all the time. That's fine. But this is just an example of many other needs that will need expressing at some point. But it's basically, it's one line, it's polite, it's clear, concise, and it opens up him being able to say yes or no. The burdensome request, he cannot escape from. That's what creates resistance. The open request, he can escape from. He goes, no, I'm happy to do that. You see the point? It's very different. So it will be, again, think of another example. I really need your help with, I really need your help with posting these letters today because I can't get around to doing it. That's just put me in a position where if I can't do that, I'm the worst guy in the world. I can't do the specific request.
Yeah, the feminine works different in that way, because for us that would be like, hey, I'm so sorry, I don't have time.
Yeah, exactly. But for the masculine, if it's like, would you be happy to help me by posting these letters, please? Super confident, open, and it allows him to say yes or no.
Yeah.
No, okay, what's the problem? Yes, okay, done. So it's a very subtle thing. And it's an art. You're right. It's an art. It's not easy. We're not taught, like, who taught us to ask, and who taught us to request our needs? Like, what is that?
Yeah. And where have we had our parents be in relationships that role model that to us? I think only very few of us have seen like a pretty ideal relationship at home. So we haven't seen something that we can model off of how we want to interact. But let's come back to those feminine needs. So the first one is basically for certainty, for security, for knowing that we are being prioritized, being appreciated by the way the masculine deals with us. But you had a second point there.
The second point is sense control. So
that is hard to understand, and that's not something that we read in the normal Western books.
Yeah.
What the hell, Mr. Olabode? What are you talking about?
Yeah. What does it mean, sense control? Okay, so we've got the senses, the 5 senses: touch, tone, taste, smell, and sight. And the 6th sense, which is the mind, which includes the mind. So one of the things that they're appreciating is sense control. Sense control means that the masculine nature is in reasonable and appropriate control of his body and mind.
Yep, because then you're not dealing with your own child, but with an actual man.
Oh, there's so many. Yeah. And you're dealing with a masculine. Authentic masculinity is a masculine who does not allow his feelings to heavily dictate how he respectfully deals with other people. So a feeling may come up and he may feel like acting out from a place of annoyance or anger, but he chooses to act independently of those feelings that may create a dissolution in the reaction.
Yeah.
So let's go through, I'll just go through with a few examples just to elucidate it. You go into a shop, let's say you go into a restaurant, mm-hmm. and you're both there, and the waitress is smoking. So now you're, in a bit of a dating phase or whatever, and the feminine nature knows how long you're going to look at each an individual person. You don't know. She knows. But she knows exactly how long you've been on your phone, exactly how much eye contact you give to her, exactly how much times you've looked elsewhere in the different directions. Scenario one is that you have eye contact with the waitress 1 second longer than it was appreciated by the partner. Not the best way to start the night, right? So what does that mean? Just in that scenario, it means that in that situation, he's not in sufficient control of his eyes.
Yeah.
So he hasn't been able to have that sense of, what's the best? You can say independence or solidarity, that his influence or his ability to remain centered has been influenced or taken away because of the beauty of the attraction of the other female.
Yeah, and it comes back to not respecting me, not putting me first, and not making me feel safe that you're not going to run off with the next waitress at the next opportunity.
Sense control creates safety. That's the point.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, is that 100% what you're saying? When you're able to have that, it creates safety and security because the masculine nature is consistent. It creates a foundation. One of the ways I sometimes describe it is like, I don't know, like a flag and a flagpole. A flagpole is really solid and structured, and then connected with a flag, which is colorful and it vibrates and it ricochets in the air, it creates waves of beauty. If the flagpole is connected, if the flag is connected to a flagpole which is a bit rocky, we've got problems, right? It might drop, she won't be able to shine. And if the flag is not connected to the flagpole, then it can wave in the wind, but where's the connection? Where's the full blossoming? So the flagpole, which is solid, connected with a flag which is wavy, swift, and spontaneous, create something beautiful together. So the flagpole gives that solidarity to the flag, and then the flag gives that purpose and vibrancy to the flagpole. So it works.
Yeah.
But you can't have that unless that solid sense, that solid independence and sense control is in. So that's just with the eyes, tongue, speech. Let's think about it. There's many times where what happens is this. Sound is generated, just kind of a little technical bit. Sound is generated not just from the mouth, but it's actually generated from it's considered basically from the lower chakras, and it comes up, and then the sound is kind of like the sound coming out from the mouth is like the last formation of it. When he's been criticized or he feels like she's done something incorrect or wrong, there's a whole immersion, there's a whole experience of a certain sound vibration that comes up and wants to emerge. However, his intelligence can lock in and go, hold on a minute. If I say that at this moment, is she going to feel like she's number one priority? Is she going to feel like I want to connect with her? Is she going to just feel like, or am I going to win the argument? So when that comes up, he has this ability to go, hold on a minute, let me discriminate and see what is the best and appropriate sound vibration to pick in this moment. Because one thing he says can destroy trust for weeks, can destroy security for weeks, and it can be so hard to get back, right? And it could be something small, like a comment about her appearance, or it could be a comment about her family member.
Yeah, a comment with any intention to hurt.
Yeah. So it creates it can create a lot of insecurity, because like, if you can say that, that means you're not sufficiently attached to me. You don't love me enough. That's what's going on in the feminine mind.
Yeah.
You can't love me. How can you say that and love me, but you can say something like that? No way. And mean something like that? No way. No, you can't. No. Can't be secure. No. I'm gonna make sure I take care of myself and not depend too much, because I don't know, there's something up there. So speech control, even hand touch. Sometimes it's important, again, with the sense control, that if he's to touch his partner, that he's touching in a way that she appreciates and is not overstepping boundaries.
Yeah.
So sometimes she's in a position where there's a certain touch she needs, which is more of a friendly nature rather than an intimate nature, and he's able to adapt to that. What can happen is, if the person's not sense control, they push the type of touch and interaction physically that they want on the feminine nature, and it doesn't create the safety and security, again, because she feels like, oh, you only touch me not because you care about me as a person and I'm number one,
because you care about you,
because you want to experience a certain satisfaction from me. So it's not about me, it's about you. If it's about you, I'm second, but there's no second, it's either first or nothing. So this is what's happening in a really fast scale.
And it's so true. Yeah,
they just call it, they just, but that's common phrase. It'd be like, feeling used and all of that. Then so, and then obviously with the mind, not to go into too much detail, but basically, in a sense, you can say that there's 3 boxes in the mind: the central box, the intellectual box, or the logical box, and the emotional box. And for the masculine nature, they can be in one of the boxes. For the feminine nature, it's like an ensuite. They're always in the same. It's always connected. The emotional with the logical with the sensual. But for the masculine mind, they can actually be in one of the boxes. So when the feminine nature is feeling disposed in a way that she's expressing more moods, more energy, more emotions, at that point, he has more of an ability, according to the psychology of the masculine, to not to remain in that centered box. For the feminine nature, their emotions are more closely connected with their minds and brains. So if an emotion comes up, it means a lot to them.
Yeah.
It means they're everything to them. For the masculine nature, it's not exactly the same. If emotion comes up, I'm talking about authentic masculinity here. The emotion comes up, but he can discriminate, is this emotion that properly serves me? Feminines can do that also, but it's in a different way.
And I think it's harder for us females to rationalize ourselves out of the emotion. It's like we can understand why we have it, etc., but it's so locked into our bodies often on a physical level, and we carry it around wherever we go. So it's not something that will just go away, where sometimes it blows my mind how men can be so angry or upset or stressed or whatever, and then 10 minutes later everything is fine. It's like, what's wrong with you, right?
It's like, what happened there?
Different compartment.
It's just a different compartment, and look at the beauty of that. Unfortunately, I'm so sorry that we've sometimes been immersed in a community or society where we may have shamed the feminine nature for having emotions that extend for periods of time. I'm so sorry for that. But is the beauty in it? The beauty is the emotions create variety by which the masculine can find new ways to show that she's number one priority if he's sufficiently in control of his senses. If he's not in control of his mind and senses, and he's himself, basically means being in control of himself, then he is not able to appreciate the variety that she's bringing through the emotions. And so in one of the ancient texts, it mentions that happiness, sadness, envy, jealousy, and the other emotions, basically there's nothing really different about them for the feminine nature, because they're all experiences, you see. For the masculine nature, he sees happy, oh, fantastic, yeah, we're doing good. She's sad, oh, forget that. Let me, oh, no, I don't want to engage with that. There's something about me. No, happiness and sadness, they're just energies. And if he engages with the sadness, it will flip back to happiness, because the security has been established that, hey, you're there even while I'm sad. I don't have to just be in this.
And it deepens the connection so much when somebody is willing to show up for us, even at our worst. Absolutely. And on the flip side of that, talking about like the needs of the feminine,
sure,
that need is so important for me personally. This whole, like, are you able to be in control of yourself? Are you basically a real man? That when I find that my counterpart isn't controlling himself and isn't showing up in that way, I lose respect so quickly. And I just don't want to lean into that, because I think most of us females tend to also want to lean on or lean in with our partner. Doesn't mean we're giving up all our own control, etc., but it means that, again, it's the safety. I can lean towards you. If you are not safe because you're wavering, and because at any moment in time you can just collapse just because of something that I said or some way that I felt being genuinely myself, then why would I lean? Why would I even want to be with you?
Who's been the flag? Who's been the flagpole?
That's right. Who is the rock and who's the river?
Yeah. So if I find that for the feminine nature, if I'm finding, hey, now it's my time to just be a bit irrational,
or emotional or dramatic.
And these words, unfortunately, they've got negative connotations because it's the masculine nature that's pushed the negative connotations. Irrational just means not rational. That's not bad. It's also not good. It's just a style. That's all it is. Being emotional is not bad, and being emotional is not good. It's just a type of dimension of our lives. That's it. It's not bad or good. So when she feels like she needs to be emotional, at that point she needs to connect with the flagpole or the rock so that the variety can happen.
Yeah.
What happens is, if she wants to manifest a variety, but the flagpole is not strong, it's actually a liquid or a gas, right? It's just this unreal thing. She can't, there's nothing to connect with a variety. So she feels, I'm not connected with a flagpole, I'll just do it on my own. So
that's
therefore,
right. What do I need you for? Why am I in this for? Absolutely.
Another subtle point as well. And I'd love for you to reflect on this, just, based on in your past as well. One of the things also with the feminine nature, one of the things they appreciate or they look for is qualities in the masculine that they feel that person has more of. In a sense of, like, let's say we're going back to the self-respect. A woman who's self-aware, very powerful, but she has a lot of respect for, if she connects with someone, both male or female, if she connects with someone who has even more self-awareness.
Absolutely.
You see, because there's that, there's in a sense, not a competition, but there's a sense in which one can, there's like almost like something to aspire to.
And something to look up to. I've always found that I need to be able to respect my man. And like, even with my ex-husband, whilst there's a lot of qualities that I'm glad I don't have in my life anymore, there are still some of those constant things, of those important things, where I still deeply respect him.
Yes,
that doesn't mean I still want to be with him, but he had certain qualities that I really, really appreciate in a man, and I can still acknowledge that about him.
Exactly, that's the thing. And though that respect, and we'll touch upon it in a different video, basically are in 4 categories. It's either on a physical level, on an economic level, on an intellectual level, and then on a spiritual level. So if you find that you're connected with someone who has, let's say let's say one of your qualities, you got many great qualities. One of your good qualities is, okay, you really love to help people feel very positive about their purpose.
Yeah.
If you meet someone who helps people to feel positive about their purpose in even more, in the same, or even more of a greater manner than yourself, you're going to feel like you want to learn from that person. Like
100%.
you want to become that. You want to like,
I want to be with that. I want to be with that, basically. Yeah, absolutely.
Like, I respect you, you know, I'm magnet. There's a magnet. There's a certain vibe. So in the qualities that are valuable for you, and for any particular family that we're dealing with or speaking to, whatever you respect and value, one of the things that are suggested is that you connect with someone who you feel has that same value in a greater abundance, because the natural respect will be there. And one of the biggest things could be maturity. You're mature, but if you connect with someone who you feel is more mature, it's like, oh, I've got something who I can connect to not just level out and compete with, but someone to grow with, someone who can expand with. But the growth isn't just a painful growth, like you need to do this, 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 and this. No, it's just a very loving, like, hey, I'm tolerant, but whoa, this person's really tolerant. I remember Margaret, I think it was, I'm pretty sure that it was Thatcher. I'll have to double check. So I think it was when her husband passed away, when she retired from politics, because her thing was, oh, it was only because I had that support from the husband that I was able to do that.
Wow, that is very interesting.
However, she was out there, you know, doing the whole things, but it would mean that this person in the background is even more powerful, you know, more respectful and all of that. So she was like, oh. So you'll see these things happen time and time again. I've seen it so many times where you have a woman who's incredibly, you know, quite independent, got her money together, got her life together, and actually is kind of resistant to relationships, to be honest. Doesn't really want to be with a guy.
Because often it doesn't add value, 100%.
Exactly,
like it's tricky to find someone that adds enough value for it to be worth also compromising on other areas.
Yeah, exactly. Then she finds a guy. Oh, he's a gentleman, cultured, spiritual, understands himself, doesn't need to flip out, happy to deal with conflicts, quite balanced, doesn't get too stressed about conspiracy, you know, whatever it is, right? And then all of a sudden she's like, oh, well, I could have done this, this, and this on my own, but actually I take more pleasure in just allowing this person to take care of that part of my life for me, because he cares about me, just feels like I don't should.
Basically, I can be more if I am with that person.
Yeah. And I'm like, and so what happens is I found that even though there's sometimes that hard-heartedness, when connecting with someone who's very cultured, it's like you see more of the femininity blossom. It's very, very interesting.
Very true. Because to relinquish your own like strong, tough leadership, your own masculinity, especially because we are so well trained, many of us women nowadays, to be self-sufficient and to stand on our own 2 feet and to fend for ourselves. And in order to relinquish that and step more into our feminine, which is more vulnerable, which is less self-sufficient, etc., that's a risk.
Yes.
And we have to think twice about whether we want to do that and whether we want to make ourselves that vulnerable. So unless there is someone there who's really worth it and who's really strong and can hold us in that way, it's just not worth the trade-off.
They're just at a certain point, they're like, they're just literally, and they emotionally literally shut off. It's just like, there's nothing here for me.
But then the right person comes along and it lights you up like a Christmas tree.
That's it, and it creates that blossoming, and there's a gain, right? There's a certain experience to be had here. The masculine nature works in the field of accomplishment. The feminine nature works in the field of experience. So just going back to one of the points that was making earlier with sense control, because it's quite an important point that you kind of brought up. A guy who's sense controlled and sensitive can deal with the feminine nature in the exact present moment, not one moment in the past, or not one moment in the future. So what that means is she feels upset that they don't talk, or no, she feels upset that they don't hang out together.
Yeah.
You guys just hung out yesterday. What's the typical thing the man does? But we just hung out yesterday.
I know, and it absolutely means nothing.
No, totally missed it.
Yeah.
Yesterday is simply something that what happens in the present happened and is no longer an experience once you talk about an experience, you can't experience, you're not experiencing it, you're talking about the experience, so it's in the past. The feminine nature works in the present. So you cannot bring up what happened yesterday and use it as something today for her to generate experience, because experience has already been done.
Yeah.
So so this whole idea where he goes, but we just hung out, yes, we just hung out, you know, we just hung out, look, the last 5 days we hung out, right? If you would say that.
Yeah, but still today we haven't.
It's in the present, that's what so now you can say, well, what does that mean? I have to drop all my plans? Nope. For the guy, let's say he truly can't hang out. What she's looking for isn't actually to hang out. It's to connect with you through the medium of hanging out. So the hanging out or watching a movie or watching or eating together isn't for the food or the movie or to hang out. It's
that's the connection,
to create a connection, to create 100%. Interaction.
That's right.
So what he needs to do in that situation is interact with her in the present at that moment and show, yeah, I'm here for you. However, because of this particular, let's say with this typical example of the projects, right? Because of this particular project I'm working on, in order to grant more freedom for us, more economic exchange for us, more opportunity for us, I can't hang out with you in this specific present, but it's something that I would love to do and would choose it if I could. So what he's doing is he's not saying no to her. He never says no to her.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, because you don't say no.
You don't say no to a woman. That's right. Very good.
You simply say yes in a different form. It's not no. So the project, I'm working on a project, I can't hang out with you, sorry. That's a no to me. I'm not number one, security, safety, not sure. I'm working on this project so that I can serve you in a greater capacity than I can now, provide more opportunities, provide more exchange, more experience, right? It's still saying yes to her, but it's readjusting her request that can be unreasonable at that time. You know, he can't fulfill it, but he's still saying yes to her, and that's what she's looking for.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
Yes to the interaction. So
yeah,
these
exactly.
are things.
Brilliant. I think you need to make a course for men, even more so than for women. I mean, you've got your relationship course. We're going to drop the link to that in the comment section for sure. But I think you should actually be out there teaching men to understand women. It's like we women, we are always the ones, you know, taking all the courses trying to understand men. Would be lovely if more guys would know. And it's just simple things like communicating your intentions, like you just said, that really can make all the difference in the world. I think we'll conclude the topic here, even though we could probably keep discussing for hours. But we have more content coming with you. We're going to catch up again and see you again soon, Michael. Thank you so much for being here. If you have watched this video and you've loved it as much as I have, then please follow our channel so you stay in touch. And if you want, hit the bell button so that you get notifications when we are bringing our next content here onto YouTube. And thanks for watching. All the best for you and see you again soon.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.